Emily Harper sat in the dimly lit conference room, the kind with frosted glass walls that pretended to offer privacy, but really just blurred the outlines of prying eyes outside. Her coffee had gone cold in her hand. Steam long vanished. As she stared at the single sheet of paper slid across the polished oak table. "These are ours now," said Jordan, the CTO. His voice smooth like oil on water, but his eyes sharp, calculating. Beside him, the CEO, Victor Lang, leaned back in his leather chair, arms crossed, exuding that false calm of a man who thought he'd already won. The words on the page blurred for a second. IP transfer agreement. Full ownership of all utilities developed during employment, but Emily didn't blink.
She didn't argue.
Not yet. Because deep down, in the quiet spaces where resentment simmers into resolve, she knew they were walking into a trap she'd set years ago, without them ever suspecting. It had started innocently enough. Back when the company, Apex Dynamics, was just a scrappy startup in Seattle's tech hub, rain-slicked streets and overpriced lattes fueling late-night hacks. Emily had joined as a mid-level engineer, fresh from a burnout at her last gig, drawn by promises of autonomy and impact. But autonomy? That was a joke. The team was a mess, deployments crashing like dominoes, servers gasping under unoptimized loads, devs fumbling through manual tests that took hours. She saw the chaos and couldn't stand it. Not on company time.
Though.
Oh no.
She was smarter than that.
Evenings and weekends. In her cramped apartment overlooking Puget Sound, waves crashing like white noise in the background, she built her toolkit on her personal rig. A sleek monitoring dashboard that flagged anomalies before they became fires. An automation script that streamlined CI/CD pipelines, shaving days off release cycles. A fault-tolerant logger that turned error floods into actionable insights. She named them subtly eHarper Insights. eHarper Flow, nothing flashy. Just functional elegance born from her own frustration. She introduced them quietly, uploading anonymized versions to the internal wiki, licensing them for team use under a simple agreement she'd drafted herself. "Feel free to integrate," she'd emailed the group. No fanfare. And they did. Gratefully at first. "This is gold," one dev messaged her. The CTO back then, Sarah, had even signed off on the license over a casual lunch, rain pattering on the cafe window. Sarah nodding as she skimmed the doc. "You retain rights. We get internal use. Fair deal." It was black and white, time-stamped, backed up in triplicate. Emily had printed it, filed it away in a drawer labeled insurance, because she'd seen enough corporate horror stories to know trust was a luxury. Years passed, and Apex grew. Acquisitions, funding rounds, the office expanding into a gleaming tower with ping-pong tables and free snacks masking the grind. Emily's tools became the invisible backbone. Every sprint, every demo, they hummed in the background, preventing meltdowns, boosting metrics. The execs paraded the resilient infrastructure in investor pitches, never mentioning her name. She didn't mind. Credit wasn't the point, efficiency was. Until the whispers of a buyout started circulating. A big player, Nexus Corp, sniffing around, valuations in the 9 figures. That's when the crack showed. It was a Thursday evening, sun dipping low over the Olympics, casting long shadows through her office window. A Slack ping from Jordan. "Quick question, those monitoring scripts you shared, built them on the job, right?" Her fingers paused over the keyboard. The phrasing was too casual, too probing. She typed back measuredly, developed independently, licensed for internal use per the 2019 agreement. "What's up?" No reply. Just read receipts and silence. That night, she couldn't sleep. The waves outside her window sounded like warnings. She pulled up her old backups, reviewed the license, ironclad, with clauses on revocation and ownership. She emailed her lawyer, an old college friend named Mia, who specialized in IP disputes. Eyes on this. Mia's response came fast, solid. They try anything, we've got leverage. The next day, the policy update hit the internet like a stealth bomb. Revised IP guidelines buried in a routine HR newsletter. All work, even off hours if related to company tech. Now company property. Retroactive claims implied,
though not stated outright.
Emily read it twice. Heart steady, but mind racing. They were gearing up for the sale, scrubbing liabilities, claiming what wasn't theirs. She printed the update, annotated it with dates and contradictions from her original license. No panic, just preparation. She knew the game now, corporate chess, where pawns like her got sacrificed for the king's egos. By Monday, the tension thickened. Whispers in the break room about due diligence. Lawyers combing code repos. Emily kept her head down, but she felt eyes on her. Then the invite. IP alignment meeting. No details. Just Jordan and Victor in the corner office. She walked in, notebook in hand, and there it was, the paper. Sign this, Jordan said, tapping the transfer clause. Clears up any gray areas before the deal. Victor smiled thinly. We're all on the same team here. Emily leaned back, letting the words hang. Gray areas? She echoed softly. They nodded, expecting compliance. But she saw the bluff. The policy wasn't signed by her. Couldn't override prior agreements. She didn't sign, just nodded. I'll review it. Their smiles faltered, but they let her go. That night, she activated a subtle feature in her tools, a diagnostic ping to her private server. Logging usage, enforcing the license quietly. Weeks blurred into a slow build of unease. The buyout loomed. Demos scheduled. Emily heard through the grapevine that her tools were being touted as proprietary Apex innovations. She smiled inwardly. Let them dig deeper. The buyout diligence kicked off in a swanky hotel suite downtown, Seattle's skyline glittering like a promise through floor-to-ceiling windows. Emily was invited as technical support, perched on a side chair like an afterthought, her laptop humming softly on her lap. The Nexus team arrived sharp-suited, led by Carla Reyes, a no-nonsense attorney with a reputation for sniffing out IP landmines. They dove in code audits, asset lists, the works. Victor and Jordan pitched smoothly. Our resilient stack is homegrown, battle-tested. Emily watched, silent, as they demoed her dashboards, her scripts running flawlessly in the background. Then Carla paused mid-flip through the IP binder. This monitoring suite, full chain of custody? Jordan waved it off. Internal dev. All ours. Carla's eyes narrowed. Contributor logs show eHarper namespaces. That's not Apex. The room tensed. Victor shot Jordan a look.
It's
integrated. But Carla wasn't buying. She pulled up a repo on her tablet. These modules reference external licenses. Dated 2019. Emily felt the shift. The air thickening like before a storm. She didn't speak. Her lawyer,
Mia,
whom she'd looped in quietly, was on standby via text. By afternoon, the dissection intensified. Nexus engineers probed the code, uncovering the validators, those quiet heartbeats Emily had embedded, pinging her server every few days to confirm active licensing. This isn't proprietary, one engineer muttered. It's leased. Jordan's face drained of color. Victor leaned in, whispering furiously, You said this was clean. Jordan stammered. I assumed. Assumptions. The word hung like a noose. That evening, back in her apartment, Emily poured a glass of wine, watching the ferries cut across the sound. Her phone buzzed. Mia. They tripped the ping. Logs show unauthorized deep access. Emily nodded to herself. The validators weren't malicious. They were guardians. If the license lapsed, the tools wouldn't explode. They'd degrade gracefully. Dashboards would stutter. Logs would fragment. Efficiency dipping just enough to erode trust. It was poetry in code. A reminder that nothing runs forever on borrowed time. The next day, the meeting reconvened. Tension electric. Carla laid out printouts. We've identified third-party dependencies critical to your infra. Without clear ownership, we adjust valuation downward. Victor protested. These were built here. Carla slid over the 2019 license. Highlighted. Signed by your former CTO. Emily Harper retains rights. All eyes turned to her. Emily met them steadily. That's correct. Jordan spluttered. But you've been using them as if. Victor cut him off. Face reddening. The buyers didn't yell, they negotiated coldly. Secure a proper license, or we carve this out. Emily left the room untouched by the chaos. But inside, satisfaction bloomed. They'd underestimated her, the quiet engineer who fixed things without fanfare.
Now.
The power dynamic flipped. That night, Victor's email arrived. Let's discuss formalizing your contributions. Polite, but desperate. Emily forwarded it to Mia, who drafted a response. Open to talks. Terms forthcoming. The following weeks were a whirlwind of back and forth. Apex devs scrambled, trying workarounds. But every tweak triggered warnings, hash mismatches, self-healing scripts reverting changes. It's like the code's alive, one whispered in the hall. Emily overheard, suppressing a smile. It wasn't alive, it was protected. Mia negotiated hard, perpetual license for a lump sum plus royalties. Revocation rights intact. Victor balked. But Nexus pressured. Without the tools, the deal cratered. In a late-night call, Victor's voice cracked. Emily, we built this together. She paused, letting the lie sit.
No.
Victor, I built it. You used it. Silence. He conceded. The deal inched forward, but the gloss was gone. No victory toasts in the boardroom, just grim faces and revised term sheets. Emily's tools were now licensed assets in the appendices. Her name etched in fine print like a signature on a masterpiece. Jordan's attempts to downplay it backfired. Nexus demanded full audits. Uncovering more, her flow scripts in every pipeline, her loggers in every server. This isn't a company, Carla said flatly in one meeting. It's a scaffold around her work. Victor's fury boiled privately. He cornered Emily in the elevator one day, doors hissing shut. You could have said something earlier. She looked at him levelly.
I did.
In the license you ignored. The doors opened. He stormed out. Jordan fared worse. His oversight became the scapegoat. Whispers of his exit circulated, framed as new ventures, but everyone knew he'd bet the farm on stolen goods. Emily, meanwhile, thrived in the quiet power. Royalties rolled in, enough to fund her own ventures. She started consulting on the side, building similar tools for others, always with ironclad terms. The experience hardened her, but didn't bitter her. It taught vigilance. The corporate world chews on talent, spits out husks. But with foresight, you could chew back. As the ink dried on the acquisition, Emily sat in her apartment, laptop open to the final docs. Page 82. All E. Harper utilities licensed separately. A small victory, but profound. It wasn't about money, it was about ownership. Respect. The waves crashed outside. Rhythmic. Eternal. She closed the laptop, wondering how many others were out there, building in shadows, waiting for their moment. But the story didn't end there. Post-acquisition, Nexus integrated smoothly, but echoes lingered. A new policy at Apex, or now Nexus West, mandated clear IP tracking. Emily's case became legend in tech circles. Whispered in forums, "Don't assume, document." She moved on, starting a boutique firm, helping devs protect their creations. The moral? In a world of takers, be the one who holds the keys. Wait. No, that wasn't the end. Because life in tech isn't tidy. Months later, Emily got a call from an old colleague. Now, at Nexus. "They're trying to fork your tools." She laughed softly. Let them try. The validators were still active, pinging faithfully. Any fork would trigger degradations, subtle, deniable, but effective. Sure enough, reports trickled in, glitches in deployments, unexplained lags. Nexus reached out. Sheepish. Renewal terms? Mia handled it, upping the fee. Emily donated part to IP advocacy groups. Reflecting, she walked the Seattle waterfront, mist in the air. The conflict had revealed fractures, not just in code, but in trust. Victor's greed, Jordan's arrogance, her own quiet fury. Was it justice or revenge? The line blurred, but it left her stronger. Questioning. In a system that rewards theft, who really owns progress? The city lights flickered, and she pondered the human cost, the devs caught in crossfire, the innovation stifled by fear.
Yet,
Her story inspired. Online, anonymized tales echoed hers, empowering others to safeguard their work. The drama wasn't over, it evolved. Years on, Emily looked back from her new office, overlooking the sound. The buyout faded, but the lesson endured. She'd built more than tools, a legacy of resilience. The central musing. When corporations claim your soul, do you fight or fortify? She chose both, leaving an ethical echo. Ownership isn't given, it's defended. And, in that defense, true power lies.